friends, Kathy Lanzalaco from Inspire Careers here with another episode of Spotlight on Recruiting. Today, I am very excited. My next guest in our series comes to you from Selective Staffing Solutions, and his name is Thom Jennings. Hi, Thom. How are you?
Hey, Kathy. I'm great.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm excited to talk with you today.
In this series of Spotlight on Recruiting, I am interviewing recruiters throughout the Western New York area to try to help our job seekers during this very difficult economic time, to help understand the role of executive recruiters in the agencies around the city and around the Western New York area. And I think sometimes getting to talk to the people right in the trenches is very helpful, kind of spinning the desk around a little bit.
Sure.
So Thom, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into recruiting?
Yeah, so I did not grow up thinking I was going to be a recruiter. I think in kindergarten I said I was going to be an animal trainer. So fast forward a few years later, and I went to college. I was actually a political science major. I thought I was going to be the next lobbyist or mayor of a city somewhere. Ended up actually falling into a digital marketing career where I spent about 7 years working on things like search engine optimization and building websites, things along those lines. And then this is interesting, but I got headhunted to be a headhunter. Somebody called me right at work. My company cell phone was advertised on our company website, and they said, "Hey, I've been looking at you on LinkedIn. I like what I see in your background. Have you ever thought about recruiting?" My initial reaction was no. And I actually reached out to a recruiter that I knew here locally from an old position. And I said, "Hey, somebody's been chatting with me about going to work for a recruiting agency. You know me. Do you think this could work?" And they said, "Yeah, as a matter of fact, I could see you doing that." And I ended up going through the interview process, taking an offer, and fast forward to today, here we are.
Well, I love that story because I think it's important for people to understand that sometimes you can end up in places that you never anticipated based on your career path in the past. I too have a career history like that where, I never anticipated going into HR. I started out as a nurse, but things lead to the other. I think the important thing is to be open. To possibilities, right? So that's the first thing we want to say. But why don't you talk to us a little bit about your firm, Selective Staffing Solutions, and tell us about the type of positions that you recruit for.
Yeah, so we have two very unique divisions here. One, we have our staffing team. So Selective Staffing Solutions is working on a number of temporary or temp to hire placements. They're doing a ton of medical searches, a lot of production, warehousing, customer service, sales, you name it. There's about 50 plus open positions right now going on.
Wow.
I spearhead Albert's executive search, which is essentially our executive search division of Selective Staffing Solutions. I focus on business professionals. I would say I'm more of a generalist than a specialist. I do a little bit of everything from accounting to human resources to engineering to I was talking to a quality manager this morning and an HR manager within 3 to 5 minutes of each other. So really cover the whole gamut from temporary worker to C-suite executive.
Oh, excellent. So there is hiring going on. That's what I hear you saying.
There's a ton. I will say in the last 3 or 4 weeks alone, just the job orders, the clients calling in, trying to fill positions, has seen a huge uptick. I think if you were to go to our website right now, in the executive division, there's 15, 20 positions that we're working on, direct hire. The staffing division, another 30, 40 opportunities. So there's a lot.
Oh, we will share that at the end of this. We'll share that link so that people can take a look at that. That's
awesome.
Great.
Thank you.
And I think it's important for people to understand that that is how you get those search assignments is through the employers, and that you work for the employers to try to find the right candidate for that job, right?
Absolutely. I think it's a common misconception that you hire a headhunter to find you a job. It's really the reverse. Clients hire us to find people for their positions. So yes, it is.
What kind of advice would you give to job seekers today, Thom, when you're talking to them, as you're interviewing them for different positions? What might be the one piece of advice that you find yourself repeating over and over to job seekers?
I always tell people just be very, very true to yourself. I think a lot of people, especially when it comes to interviewing and looking at positions, they try and sort of overthink how they might be able to fit the mold. However, it really comes down to, do you have the right skill set, experience? Is it the right culture fit? Do you have the right attitude that's just going to assimilate with a team, especially if you're going to be in a leadership position? I think it's true. It's important for people to step back and focus on that more so than what does this company want to hear?
I think that's fabulous advice, because I think particularly in today's age where there are so many people out of work, I've heard people tell me repeatedly that come to me for career advice that they say, well, I can do any job. I can learn anything. Or, I don't care. I just need a job. But recognizing that, that's not going to make you happy, and it may not even make you successful in the job. So I think that's really great advice.
Yeah, I joke with people that I could probably coach you into winning every interview, but that's not what's important. What's important is that you find a career that's a great fit for you and the company, and it's something that's going to last for you long term. Acing the interview isn't ultimately what's going to get you where you need to be.
I would agree with that. Thom, what is the biggest resume mistake that you see when you get people's resumes in? What is the one thing that makes you cringe when you see it, or one thing you'd like to see different?
I'm a huge stickler for inconsistencies, especially knowing recruiters and a lot of my clients, especially HR folks. They will look on LinkedIn. They will go through some of their network. They'll look at old resumes they might have in their database. And oftentimes we'll find people maybe try and get rid of gaps, or they just quickly, when they put together their resume, might have missed a date here or there. So if we see that you said you were with a company from 2017 to 2020, but on your LinkedIn it says you started in 2019, it automatically raises questions.
Yeah. So consistency, thoroughness, all of those things that I think we take for granted. And, we assume, I think sometimes, that people can understand the story, but we have to tell the story. We have to take you guys on the journey, right? To help you understand fully, to be able to help job seekers.
Absolutely. It's a resume often, or a LinkedIn profile even, is your first introduction to somebody. So while there's a story behind it, right now we haven't heard it yet. We haven't talked to you about your career history, why you might have left a position, how you got to where you are. All we're looking at is a piece of paper with some dates, titles, and job duties. So it's really important that all that's consistent across the board, so that you can come through as very authentic, and we can start that conversation.
Well, that's great advice. Absolutely. Thom, when you're talking to job seekers and you're asking them whether or not they may be interested in this position, how are you generally finding them? Are you searching for people on LinkedIn? Are they trying to send you resumes from the outside? How does that first contact mostly happen with you?
It's a good mix. I would say probably 95% of the positions that I'm working on, I am going out and looking for candidates, passive job seekers. There are certainly candidates that come to me. There are people that might have come to me a year ago that I'm placing today. For me, I tend to look on LinkedIn. I always start with first connections. It's important to me if I already have a history with you, if I know people you may know, maybe we have a second or third degree connection. So if I need, as an example, I'm working today on a tax accountant search. The first people I'm going to reach back out to are tax accountants that I know I'm connected with. And I'll
Right.
usually start there on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Well, what I hear you saying is LinkedIn profiles are a must. A good LinkedIn profile is a must, right? Fully optimizing it, make sure that it showcases your skills, and make sure that it is completely filled out. Otherwise, it doesn't give you the information that you need to even determine if you want to talk to that person.
Absolutely. I know candidates haven't really seen what LinkedIn Recruiter might look like, but it's a huge platform, especially in talent acquisition, where we're going through and we're looking for skills, keywords that might match certain softwares. There's a lot of manufacturing clients who look for, as an example, SAP experience. If that's not listed in your LinkedIn profile, chances of coming up in our search are slim to none.
Yeah. And when I talk to clients, I help them understand what optimizing their profile means in terms of making sure that all those keywords are included both in their resume and on LinkedIn. Who knows what the platform will look like in a couple of years, but I think LinkedIn is absolutely exciting. I'm obsessed with it. I love it. I love the new functionality all the time, but to really keep up on it, you need to be in it. And I am familiar with the recruiter function. And so I talk to people about that when we're helping set up their profiles. It's super important. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Thank you.
Welcome.
So what would your final piece of advice be here as we end our talk today? Anything, any thoughts you'd like to leave job seekers with or recommendations for their search?
My best advice is if you're going to partner with a headhunter or a search consultant or a recruiter, I think it's important to understand that they are a partner and not what I would call a peddler. I think a lot of people think, hey, maybe this is somebody who can just get my resume out to the right places. In reality, you should be leaning into us as a partner for you. I joked with a candidate earlier today that he's my horse in this race. But as somebody I'm really advocating for, I'm having conversations with hiring managers in depth about their backgrounds, things I like about them. We're debriefing you through interviews. We're coaching you through interviews. We're prepping you for everything. And along the way, I think it's really important that you develop a relationship with your recruiter where you feel like they really understand what's the best fit for you. And that's going to lead to success as opposed to kind of just somebody to put your resume in a couple inboxes.
That's awesome. Thank you. That's great advice. I appreciate that. So the happy news that I think we're taking away from this is there is a lot of hiring going on in the Western New York area.
Absolutely.
But the secret the secret that I think, we're taking out of this is networking is important, talking to people is important, having a great resume, updating your LinkedIn profile. I mean, there's a lot of competition out there right now. So putting your best foot forward, you said that before, put that best foot forward for the search.
Absolutely. It sounds cliche, but it's all about who you know. Goes beyond, you don't need to know somebody that works at that company. Sometimes it's just somebody that might have a relationship with that company. And sometimes it's like that game, is it 6 degrees or 7 degrees to Kevin Bacon, right?
Yeah.
You might work with Kathy, who also works with Thom, and Thom works with the company that you've always wanted to work for.
Right.
So by starting the conversation somewhere through a couple steps, just through networking, you can get in front of the right company.
Perfect. Well, we're going to end it on that note today. Thank you so much, Tom Jennings from Selective Staffing Solutions. This was great. Thank you so much for helping us out today.
Thanks for having me.
All right. If anyone wants to get in touch with you, what is the best way to do that, Tom?
Call me crazy, but my phone can ring off the hook. So you can call me. You can reach us 716-634-3300. I'm also very quick on my LinkedIn. You can shoot me a message. I will typically get back to you within the hour. It's a platform that I live in. You can also email me at tjennings@ssswny.com.
All right, and we'll put all that up on the screen for everyone so that they have that too in case they don't have a pen with them right now. Thanks a lot, Tom. Have a great day, and thank you all for watching. See you next week. Bye-bye.